We're getting closer and closer to the NBA Finals. Boston Celtics versus Dallas Mavericks. Game one coming up on Thursday at TD Garden. And joining us now is Matt Geagan, our sports writer at CBS News Boston. He will be covering the entire series on our website, cbsnews.com/Boston. Matt, thanks for joining me. Let's start here. How should Celtics fans feel coming into the series against Luka, Kyrie, and the rest of the Mavericks?
Uh, Excited and confident. I mean, the Celtics have been the best team in basketball all year. I know people are making a big deal about their easy path in the playoffs, but isn't that the path they earned by having the best regular season record, clinching home court throughout? So the Mavericks are going to be a test. They're going to be a challenge, but Celtics have not lost 4 out of 7 all season long. So why would they start now for the finals? That being said, if they do lose this finals, it'll be a devastating blow and one that will take a while to recover from. But I don't think we're going to have to deal with that. I am extremely confident in the Celtics pulling this off, and I think most Boston fans are too.
And I'll get your pick at the end of this, but let's start with the stars of the Celtics team. Of course, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown ends up winning the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. And Jason Tatum, he's had a good postseason. I think he had moments early on that had fans maybe a little concerned, but ultimately was the leader of this team that is now pushed to the finals for the second time in 3 years. What have you made of both of their performances so far in the playoffs?
Well, I'll start with Brown because he's been their best overall player. I mean, he's shooting incredible. He's attacking the basket. He's got his mid-range game going, and he's creating plays for other players. I mean, when he drives to the hoop, he can either finish or he can dish it out to the open guys. And with all the attention that he's been commanding, there are open guys. I mean, you saw it with Derek White's game-winning series clinching 3 against the Pacers. That was all off a Jaylen Brown drive to the hoop. So he's been their best player. And then defensively, he's also locked down. I mean, and I think it's going to be important that he continues that going forward because I think he's going to draw Luka for the most part. I mean, obviously we know the Celtics defense is all about switching. It's all about matchups, but I think Jaylen's going to find the bulk of time on Luka, and he's got the bulk and the strength to go against a guy like Luka. And then Tatum, yes, his shot has been off. It hasn't been as crisp, and it was kind of off throughout the regular season as well. But he did shoot extremely well against the Mavericks in the regular season. So maybe this will lead to that Tatum takeover that we've all kind of been expecting and hoping for. He put up big numbers in both games against the Mavericks, and I know the Mavericks changed a lot since those 2 regular season matchups. The second of the 2 happened after the trade deadline, but it was right after the deadline. So the Mavs are kind of still figuring out their defensive identity after those moves. But I think Tatum will be able to exploit their defense, I mean, let's face it, Luka and Kyrie, they have made strides on defense, but they're not defensive stoppers. So I think the Celtics will be able to exploit that, Tatum especially. And again, while he struggled with his shot, he's making plays elsewhere. He's finding teammates. He's been a beast on the boards. He's pulling down some great rebounds, and his defense continues to be strong. I mean, you don't hear enough about his defense, and that's unfortunate because I think he doesn't get enough recognition on that end, which would lead to a few more MVP votes, maybe. Not that that really matters in the grand scheme of things. But defensively, I think Tatum's going to he's going to have to be as good as he has been or better for the Celtics to win. And I don't have any doubt that he will be.
Yeah, and you mentioned both those guys, obviously, and Jaylen Brown, he's shooting over 54%. He's averaging 25 points per game. And you mentioned Jason Tatum and his postseason. And you mentioned the struggle shooting from beyond the arc. He's at 29% for 3-point land, but at the same time, the rebounding's been huge. He's at 10.4 rebounds per game, 26 points per game. So he's really mixed in a lot of different aspects of his game as we saw this year. So I do think the fans are going to be curious to see how he performs in this finals compared to the one in 2022, his first. And people may remember that game 6 where he scored just 13 points and went 6 for 18 from the floor, but new team, new identity, and a new Jason Tatum with just more, just more years under his belt. Now they face a team for the first time this postseason where you can make a very fair argument that the best player on the court actually plays for the other team. You couldn't say that against the Heat or the Cavs or the Pacers, but now you go up against Luka Doncic. What has impressed you the most about the way he's performed this postseason and the way he just has performed in the playoffs in his career?
Yeah, I mean, he's another guy. I mean, he can score in bunches. Obviously, he can hit shots from anywhere on the floor, even with guys on him. Uh, Offensively, he's one of the most gifted players in the league. What impresses me most is how you wouldn't think that a guy, let's say Luka's shape, would get stronger as games go on, but I think he feeds off of beating the crud out of opposing players, and he just kind of wears other players down, and that's when he gets even better. He gets better later in games, which just doesn't make sense when you look at him. He doesn't look like the kind of guy that would get stronger as the game goes on. It looked like it would go the opposite. He'd be winded, gassed, but he thrives off of all that contact, off of battering his defenders. He's a joy to watch. I hope he's not a joy to watch over the next 4 to 6 games, but we'll see. It's a great matchup. I can't wait to see how the Celtics defense goes against him. Like I said, I think Jalen's gonna get the bulk of that. And then, obviously switches. We'll get some Porzingis, we'll get some Drew, we'll get some Derek White, and probably some Tatum too. It's going to take a team effort to slow him down. You can't stop him. There's no stopping Luka Doncic.
I was just going to say is that Rudy Gobert is probably still hearing him yell at him
Exactly.
after that game 2 shot. And obviously on the other side, Kyrie Irving, people in this area, it's been a years long discussion about Kyrie and his tenure with the Celtics. And that's long in the past at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same
Agreed.
time, what have you made of this version of Kyrie Irving, who seems to kind of have it together again and performing as he did in the playoffs like he did with the Cavs?
I'll touch on Kyrie, the person, first. He's saying all the right things. It seems like he's changed, and I'm happy that he sounds like he's in a very good place personally, which is good for him. I'm happy that he's found peace and all that. I don't necessarily believe all of it. I think he's still going to do some Kyrie things with fans in Boston. Hopefully, it doesn't elevate to the level it has in years past, where people are throwing stuff at him, hurling nasty taunts. I mean, taunts are one thing. Don't overstep the line. And hopefully he doesn't step on the logo again, because we know that drives Boston fans crazy. But Kyrie, the player, again, he's a joy to watch. That guy's a wizard. He has all the moves. He's got a bag of tricks that very few players have. He can attack. He can score from all 3 levels. He is a special talent in the NBA. Again, hopefully not the case over the next 2 weeks, but we'll see. I mean, the Celtics are going to have their hands full with that backcourt. Luckily, they have a great defensive backcourt on their own. So again, it's going to be a great matchup, strength versus strength, with the Celtics defense going against this ridiculous Mavs backcourt of Luka and Kyrie.
All right, I want X factor or X factors from you, Matt. What is the X factor, or what are the X factors in this finals for you?
Obviously, Kristaps Porzingis and his return is a huge X factor for Boston. He stretches the floor, he protects the rim as a big. Dallas has some guys that can attack the hoop too. Derek Lively, he's only a rookie, but he's got a lot of energy. He'll bring a lot of energy, and he could get a bunch of lobs from Luka and Kyrie. I think Porzingis is the last line of defense towards that. As much as I love Al Horford, he has been getting exposed this postseason, and you got to wonder how much he has left, especially if they ask him for more minutes in this finals. So Porzingis is coming back at just the right time. Hopefully he doesn't have too much rust. The Mavs are obviously going to attack him Thursday night for game 1. So he's got to be ready to have a bullseye on his back. Other X factors are obviously Drew Holiday and Derek White. They great defensively in that backcourt. They're going to have to be great against Luka, Kyrie. And then offensively, they've got to be ready to take advantage of the open looks that they'll get because of the attention that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are getting. And obviously, both of them stepped up. They've shown that they can do that. So I have faith that they will do that. We'll probably get another Derek White game-winning shot at some point this series, and it'll drive everyone crazy.
Oh, that would be amazing, especially when, like Miami last year, right at the buzzer, get our hearts to stop a little bit even more, right?
I'll take
but
it.
yeah, no, he's obviously been a huge part of this Celtics team. I want to get your finals pick in one moment, but it is interesting when you think of the context of this series and the type of season that the Celtics had in the regular season. They go 64-18. They've only lost 2 games in this postseason run as well. So you look at statistically their net differential, it's among the best teams in NBA history. And yet you have a Mavs team that comes in as a 5 seed that figured itself out as the season moved on. And while they have played really well in the postseason, you look at the historical context of these two teams, one being one of the best teams ever from a net differential standpoint, and then one team that's a 5 seed. And this is an important note that no team lower than a 3 seed has won the NBA Finals since 1995, that Houston Rockets team that went back to back. So do you think people are taking the historical context of the series into account enough? Or do you think that this series is sort of separate from all of that because of the different factors and the fact that this Mavs team kind of rebuilt itself on the fly?
This Mavs team reminds me a lot of the Celtics a couple of years ago when they made it to the finals. A team that struggled for most of the year, struggled to find themselves for most of the year, and then really picked it up defensively at the end. So I think they're the hot pick now, obviously, because they've kind of exceeded expectations in the postseason. They're playing a different brand of basketball than we're used to seeing. And then I think a lot of it really is that people just love to discount the Celtics on the national stage. People love to hate the Celtics on the national stage. That's what generates clicks, engagement, all those keywords for us internet writers and all that stuff. But I don't think you can discount what the Celtics did during the regular season. They steamrolled. They were the best team start to finish. They were determined to be the best team from start to finish. And now I don't know why. I don't know how you could pick against them. Again, you could take that easy path in the playoffs into account. But I think people are falling in love with that a little too much. The Celtics dominated throughout the season, and they've shown us during the playoffs that they can win close games too, which was the big critique heading into the playoffs. So they've checked all the boxes. Now the last one is to win it all. So just go out and do it.
All right, let's get that finals pick. What do you got?
All right. When the Mavs won, got to the finals, my heart was saying Celtics in 5, but I've grown to respect the Mavs a lot more over the last few days. I'm terrified of Luka Doncic, slightly less terrified of Kyrie Irving. Still scares the crud out of me, but I'm picking Celtics in 6.
All right, so Matt Geagan predicting banner number 18 for the Celtics.